Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to our Williamsport City Council meeting. It is Thursday, October 13th, 7 p.m. We're at Trade Transit 2. Please rise for the invocation by Councilman Randy Allison, followed by the flag salute and roll call.
Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, Lord, to consider some things, Lord. In a world that's full of problems and issues and a lot of negativity in a lot of different ways. But tonight, I just want to think about the things we need to be thankful for, because we are blessed in many ways, especially in our community and in this part of Pennsylvania. There's a wealth of things that we're blessed with, and we don't want to take for granted. We thank you tonight, Lord God, for a city of people that comes together, Lord, to help each other and to work with each other. That we have so many volunteers that help in nonprofits and volunteer time at hospitals and food banks and all kinds of things. Lord, we just pray that more of that goes on, kinds of things that brings together. Lord, we thank you for the natural environment we have around us, that at a low cost, we can enjoy things that are priceless and worth so much, Lord God. Spending time out in creation, but it's also spending time with each other, just people with God, not on phones, not on technology, but coming back ready to do those kinds of things. And Lord, we thank you that in our city government, Lord, we have things moving ahead. We've been given a generous amount of money, Lord, that we're working hard to wisely spend, or to improve our area and make it a better place to live and work and play, Lord God. We thank you for those resources tonight and so much more, Lord God. We thank you for those things and receive them from your hand in Jesus' name.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Frank, would you call the roll?
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Pelisi.
Here.
Mr. Biden.
Here.
Mr. Allison.
Here.
Mr. Yoder.
Here. Mrs. Katz.
I'm here.
Katz.
All right, we have a quorum. Item 3, approval of city council meeting minutes from September 29th, 2022. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions regarding the minutes for approval? Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank on the motion for approval.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item 4, let me curse it before we had no request tonight. We're going to jump around here a little bit. We're going to move down to item 15, a lot consolidation for 737 East 3rd Street. Is there a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second. Motion in a second. Mr. Nard, good evening. You're joining us remote. Hope all is well in Baltimore.
Actually, it's in Virginia, but I am here. Good evening, President Yoder and members of council. What I present to you tonight is a request from Barry Elleck to do a lot consolidation of 3 separate parcels. Parcels 69007, 103, and 104, and 114. They're located near the 737 East 3rd Street, 9th Ward. He is requesting to consolidate all of these into one parcel. In order to do so, basically, he's requesting that so that he can look at a further development down the road and clean that area up. It is 3 non-conforming lots. He's going to add them all as one for future development. It was reviewed by Lycoming County Planning as well as the city's planning and gave positive recommendation for council. And I can answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Gary. We do have a representative here as well. If we have any questions for the team that is doing consolidation. Are there any comments or questions related to the block consolidation? Here you see none, Mrs. Frank will the motion.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. We'll jump up to item 7, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing an agreement by professional services of Mary Associates.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Gary, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. What I present to you tonight is a resolution authorizing a consultant agreement between the city of Williamsport and Barry Isaac and Associates. If you recall, back in July 21, 2022, we went into an agreement with them for BCO services at a rate of $90. A BCO is basically someone who issues permits, permit applications. They can send notification. They sign and issue certificates of occupancy. So this is what we went into contract with them. With all of the development that the city currently has ongoing now, such as the old city, as well as the future developments that we have in both East End and obviously out in the western part of the city, it is becoming quite evident that we need more than just a BCO service, which issues permits and does the certificates of occupancies. What we're looking for is with this, they are moving on, and what they would redo is both commercial and residential plan reviews. So when we get a land development plan in, or when we get a construction permit in for a brand new building, they would review everything, make sure that it is compliant with the code. They'll also do commercial inspections, as we do not have an officer who can do those type of commercial inspections. So the added service that we're looking for, and this would be a rate of 120, is to add all of these disciplines to that and allow the city to move further with the development and the many developments that we do have currently, as well as moving forward. This was reviewed by finance. It was reviewed by the administration. It was also reviewed by the solicitor, and I can answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Nar. This was reviewed in finance. Mr. Allison, would you be so kind to?
Sure. Yeah, we did review this. I mean, it's evident that our code department is in transition, they're in transition stage, which in and of itself is normal, but it presents a problem as far as having certifications for these kind of inspections. As Mr. Nar has said, there's some added things that to be, at first were not apparent, but I think it's a good thing. The scope of development and things going on requires this expansion, and we can meet it this way, but we certainly don't want to hinder development of any kind that's going to go on in the city. And things that are underway already that are going to require different certifications along the way. So this meets those needs. This is an interim solution for the time being, but it's at a cost of moving forward, enables to move forward. Extend that conversation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allison. Are there any comments or questions from the members of council? I have one.
I do. Yes, I have a couple of questions. Number one, are we going to be outsourcing this for forever, or are we going to look for a codes administrator? Did that come up in the discussion at all?
If I can address that, yes, the city has and has continued to basically look for a BCO who is certified that can basically do this job and keep it in-house. At this point in time, we don't have anybody that's qualified within this geographical area. So we continue to basically put it out in different websites such as Indeed. We do have it listed obviously on the city's website. I have reached out to other third-party cities to discuss some of the avenues that they've used when they've needed a BCO at that point in time. So we are continuing to move forward with that and to bring someone in-house, obviously. I would welcome that as well.
Well, obviously, this was not a planned move, because this is quite a bit of money, and this company would not be aware of everything that goes on in our city. Who would be the point person if there's a problem or some of our citizens have questions? Who do they go to get the answers?
What Bonnie, what it is I am actually taken over as far as the supervisor with the codes, everything as far as when we get plans and things of that nature. And I coordinate with Matt Walter, who is an employee of Barry Isaac and Associates, and that will continue on until we obviously find a replacement and get a BCO in-house and take over the codes department. So I'm handling both the Bureau of Codes as well as the zoning administrative duties.
That's a lot on your plate, Gary. The other question I have is who's handling running the office? And when I say that, making sure that the employees know where they're going, what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing. Who's overseeing that?
That is me. What I do is I hold a weekly staff meeting on Mondays. I review their schedules, making sure that they're out doing inspections. I believe, in all fairness, I've been running things very smoothly. Obviously, I've had experience within the last 11 years to take over when the previous BCO was not available. So at this point in time, everything basically is run through me. I interact with the staff. Again, I hold staff on Mondays. I check in with them throughout the day, first thing in the morning, as well as in the afternoon, and we move forward, and I work and coordinate everything with Barry Isaac and Associates and Matt Walters.
Gary, you've always done a wonderful job. It just worries me that you have so much on your plate. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to ask you. You need a lot of downtime after all this is said and done, I think. This is, it's very disturbing that this is being outsourced. Like I said, there are things I know that I would call the codes office for things. If somebody doesn't sweep some of their vestibules downtown from vacant buildings and things like that. We want everything to look presentable. It's a lot of work on your shoulders right now, Gary, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. I really do. And I think everybody else does, because it is a lot of work. I just want to make sure when we look at the numbers, this is a lot of money that we're spending on it being outsourced, I think. Did anybody do the numbers on this?
Actually, I've sat down and pulled up last year's budget and what we currently have within this year's budget, and then what I'm moving forward with as far as next year's budget, to take a look at that based off of what we've currently taken in. At this point in time, I have exceeded what we were required to take in as far as building code permits. So I think we're ahead of the game as far as that. And again, I'm working on with the administration to develop an update and continue to move forward with the budget within the codes department.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Gary. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Bonnie. A follow-up question, I guess, to that. Gary, Mayor Slaughter, I don't know who's better. Molly, I think, is even on as well. So what's the barrier, or what's been the barrier so far to getting the position filled? Is it the how wide of a network casting geographically? Is it residency? I know that we've run into, I think, some residency questions before. What are you seeing on the ground? Whoever.
Yeah, did you want me to answer, or do you want to chime in?
Are you directing to me, Mayor?
Yeah, I didn't know. I can start on that, and then Gary, you can chime in if you want to. I think it's a combination of both.
Okay.
Well, a couple, and one other thing, we haven't had any qualified applicants here. The ones we've had have not had a BCO, and it takes quite a while to get a BCO. So if we don't have a BCO, you can still be outsourcing to do BCO work. Obviously, there's the residency. So if we cast a wider net, which we could do, but they're still going to have to come and live inside of the city, which may or may not happen. If you have a BCO and you've been at a place quite a while and you've established your roots, if they choose our job, they may come in and may not. So I think residency is part of it as well. But I think right now, the main thing we're seeing is just the lack of qualified applicants at this point. Gary, would you agree with that?
Exactly, Mayor. Basically, again, we keep referring to it as a BCO, what a BCO's title is and what a job is that they do. Again, what they are permitted to do is they approve building permit applications. They send notice of violations under the Pennsylvania Uniform Construction Code. They sign and issue certificates of occupancy. That's what a BCO does under what we call certification number 29, which is governed by the Pennsylvania Labor and Industry. So that's just the basic essentials of that. And there are BCOs out there that do that. But what the city also needs and continues to need with the development that we have is someone that is able to perform all commercial and residential plan reviews, individuals to hold different certifications, all the disciplines, both not only in commercial, but non-residential construction inspections as well. And all of these are governed by the Department of Labor and Industry. So it is a daunting job task that someone has to do. And we do need someone with all of those qualifications. There's no sense bringing someone aboard with limited qualifications, such as just being a BCO, when we need all those other aspects of the job governed by the Department of Labor and Industry. So that, along with some of it may be geographical, but it's to have all of those disciplines so that we can function as one individual to do all that, or basically prospectively maybe look at one or two positions to govern a BCO as well as some of the other disciplines under the Department of Labor and Industry.
That's insightful. I appreciate that. So I guess the thing I would ask is the big barrier that I think we ourselves can control is the residency piece of that. We passed that, 2.5 years ago at this point. And I still think it's a good idea. But maybe the policy doesn't work as it's designed. I mean, maybe we need to look at redoing that, and Mayor Molly, you're out there. Based on what you're seeing, in the labor market right now, if there are recommendations on what we need to do to revamp that, let's do it. Right?
Yeah, with this current labor market, what some of the other cities have done is make it a preference. We prefer, obviously, I think we all agree, sitting here, for you live in the city. But the labor market right now, obviously, is pretty cutthroat, and you need the most qualified individuals, and we're all fighting over them right now. And so they're going to go to the most desirable location. So if we have restrictions, they may move on to the next municipality and say, okay, I can work from home a little bit, or I don't need to have residency in the city in order to complete this job. And so I think that even though we all agree that we want everyone to live in the city, as do I, of course, that it is could be somewhat of a barrier. I mean, so I think with the public works position took a little bit. Fortunately, we have Scott who is in the city, but I would agree. I think we need to take a look at that and maybe make it that we prefer that you have residency not required.
And if I can add to that, Mayor, again, some of it, what I was explaining is when you get into, even if someone lives maybe an hour away and the city looks at employing them, please be aware that construction starts a lot of times by 7 a.m. So it's not just someone being in the office talking to the code officers and things of that nature. It's being able to get out there and do those commercial inspections, meeting those construction supervisors to issue those inspections. And again, there's some of the things that we also need to look at so that we're not having someone maybe an hour and a half away traveling to do this, and it becomes a burden for them and delay some of the construction and moving forward with some of the development. So that's some of the things we also want to consider as well.
Or incentives as well. Maybe when we revisit it, if you have residency, and I know Councilwoman Neal was talking about this too. Maybe we add some incentives where you have residency, you're not going to require it, but we'll incentivize some stuff. So I think Councilman goes with that.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, well, as you work through that, I mean, I think we'd be anxious to see what you can put together and bring forward recommendations. And, I think that would be great. We've got a good sample size after a couple of years. We've got some experience to learn from. So, excellent.
Adam, could I address that quickly?
Yes, and then we'll go to this.
Oh, this is about the residency. The mayor and I and a couple of other people worked on the residency in order to maintain salaries that are paid by our taxpayers, that people are living in the city. But as this is proving itself out, that several of our directors and administration people do not live in the city. It has continuously been, the resolution has been continuously ignored, okay? And so something has either got to be done. We've got to address the situation. I mean, we put something on the books. It's not doing anything. Everybody is doing as they please, and it's not working. So something has got to be done. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Lonnie. Mr. Posey.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure which piece is being, Scott's in the city, Skip would be in the city, but we addressed this situation. Molly's in the city, so I think when we look at it, the ones that were grandfathered in, obviously we can't trust those, but the new ones are in the city. So I just wanted to, Councilman.
Mr. Wilson, thank you. Mr. Nar, my two questions are going to be directed to you, sir. So the first question I have is, do we have any of our current codes inspectors that may be close or in qualifications to become a PCO?
We have one of our senior officers, Dean Severson, has all the disciplines except for the commercial aspect of it. And he has been studying in order to basically take that commercial license so that he has the ability to do inspections as far as commercial inspections. But it's also dealing with one of the disciplines is plan review of those type of natures. And I don't think we have anyone that's close to meeting those disciplines under the Department of Labor and Industry guidelines.
Okay, I understand that we may currently not have somebody that is qualified or certified in all those disciplines. I guess what I'm trying to get at is the contracted services here with Barry Ice and Associates would be it's a temporary means to an end. But in the meantime, is the current codes officer that we have working towards getting the required licenses or certificates for those disciplines to potentially fill that position with the city?
Well, his discipline would actually allow him to actually go out and just perform commercial inspections. He would have to take completely additional training under the Department of Labor and Industry to review the plans, things of that nature in those other disciplines. So that's where Barry Isaac comes in, because they have the ability to have those other reviewers that can review plans when a construction permit comes in of that nature.
Do we have any idea of what that would cost to the city to say send our officer out to be acquired this training?
At this time, I don't have that. We are piecing that together again so that we look at it for the future budget as far as training for not just one code officer, but for several of them that may need that training in order to keep everything within house and have an assistant BCO within the system here within the city. So that way, when we do hire someone that has all those disciplines, that assistant can basically cover when that BCO is either on vacation or something happens medically or is out of the office for a certain period of time.
All right. And then just the second question I have for you, Mr. Nard, is do we have any idea, any kind of estimates on how many hours annually that we would be retaining Barry Isaac services? Just based upon the workload that we've handled in the past. Quick math, in worst case scenario, $20 an hour, I think is the higher of the two rates. Average annual hours in a work year is 2,080 hours. So I think quick math comes out to $249,600. That's a lot of money.
Correct. And again, what I'm doing is putting a packet together so that we bring before it with the administration as far as what we need to do to move forward, to have everything kept within house, as well as stay within the budget that we do have planned for the future.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Meyer, are there any projects currently on hold because of our lack of BCO?
Actually, none. Believe it or not, we are on track with everything moving forward as far as the old city, some of the future development that T. Ross Brothers is bringing forward. West Pharmaceuticals has not slowed down. So basically, at this point in time, we have run everything smoothly. We're up to date with all of our inspections and getting out, making sure all the plan reviews are done, and we're issuing permits within the 14 days requirement.
Thank you.
Good question and good points. I think between a lot of conversation we've had tonight, there's a couple of things we need to look at and tackle to make sure that we can get the position filled diligently and effectively, so that we don't run into a situation where we might lose or hold up projects. None of us want that. I don't think anybody between council and the administration wants that at all. So I think we've got some good actions for the administration to take a look at for us to be able to review it at the appropriate time and hopefully remove a couple of barriers moving forward and still meet the outcomes of residency, hopefully. So that's Mr. Allison.
I agree with all that, and as well, I think we need to be realistic about the situation though. This is vacant now because of a long-standing person held those qualifications. And like so many others we've seen over the past dozen years, those people have left for one reason or another, and that experience and training qualifications that they had went with them. And I think we have to be realistic about recruiting someone with those qualifications is going to cost more money than we're used to spending. And I think our geographical location makes it a little more difficult to recruit people because we are a city, but we're surrounded by a rural area. So I think we have to take a really hard look at the department, because in the end, my position is I want the best person possible for the position that we can get. That's number one. That they fit all the other parts, but we want to maintain the best level of excellence that we can, and I think we have that. But some of these searches have taken longer because it's hard to recruit someone when we put a pre-existing condition on.
Appreciate that, Mr. Allison. Any other comments or questions? Mr.
Adam, I have one other quick question, okay? Mayor, was an RFP sent out for, to seek out a company for this? And the reason I'm going to tell you why I'm asking this, it was like 3-4 years ago, there was another company that, and I don't remember the name, that approached the city that they wanted to do the same exact thing.
No, Bonnie, we didn't do this. Was professional services, and they came highly recommended by a number of municipalities. So we went with very high set.
This is Cass. I think the firm that you're referring to, it's a different firm. This is a permitting firm specifically. I think,
Exactly.
well, I think the firm that from a few years ago was all encompassing. It was not only permits, but inspections and yeah, it was a contracting the whole department versus a sliver or a specific offering within the department. I think what you're talking about.
I thought there were a lot more involved with this other company. I don't remember the name, and I don't know if you do, Adam or Randy. I just don't remember it right now. But I just wanted to make sure our bases were covered.
Yeah, I forget the names well, Bonnie, but what they wanted was we would basically hand the department over to them and they would run the department. They said they would use some of our codes people, but they'd have some of their own and they would be in charge of the whole. So we'd be contracting out the whole operation.
and I forget the name too. I have their proposal somewhere. I can dig it up and send it to you if you're interested, Bonnie, and any or others, but.
Inspection.
That was, I forget who the company was. They were around. Who's that?
I believe they're out in New York. I believe this.
That sounds right. Yeah. But nonetheless, thank you, Bonnie. You're right. We gotta have our bases covered, and I think we do here. So I think motion nonetheless. Mr. Mackey.
Yeah, just to expand on Randy's comments and ask some questions. What I was curious, Molly, Mayor, you can answer, maybe answer, where does this salary line up as compared to other cities of our size, other jobs like this? Are we competitive in that regard?
So I haven't actually looked at that for this salary, to see if we're competitive there. We're just going off what was budgeted for this year, but I can do that research. I'm doing it right now for Director of Finance, actually. So we can bring that forward. So I can look at this with this position as well. So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, $63,000 a year.
No, I would guess that's pretty competitive.
Right. But we could have qualified people, oil stock, for sure, they could be right here. To expect somebody to move from there to here. So I would agree that we need to take a look at this residency and really ask ourselves, really doing what we intended, or is it putting up a barrier?
Well, I think, COVID highlighted some of the things that weren't initially there when we were looking at some of this. And some of the work and labor market that we're dealing with at the moment that we weren't dealing with a few years ago. So I think, it's changed and we need to change with it. Yeah, potentially. Okay.
A lot of good questions, discussion. Any other comments or questions from other members of council? Okay. Here you see none. Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Gary, thank you very much. Have a good evening and be safe, okay?
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. We'll jump down to item 10, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing a contract with NetSuite to purchase rights in their software.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. I will turn it over to Mr. Howells. He is sponsored this morning tonight.
Yes. We've had 2 meetings over this in the finance committee. So we have a contract agreement tonight with the next request to purchase software for the right to know request for the city of Williamsport. In our discussions about the need for this, it's really centered on the last few years. The amount of right to know requests has increased dramatically in the city. For a number of reasons that we get in, that we could offer, but having seen it from the inside, gotten a good cross section of those. There are an inordinate number of right to requests, and they all have to be processed under the right to know law. So next request would provide software that's specifically geared and targeted towards right to know. It's a mechanism for departments that need to fill the requests, have an all-in-one platform to manage directed requests. And I think that's important. That's an important component of getting the right to know requests, which have a time limit on them. And that information has to be researched and then presented. This makes it takes it out of pen and paper, typing, emailing kind of into a portal that can be accessed by everyone at one time who's involved in that. And of course, our city clerk and council side is the point person, not just for us, but for the whole city, for every department, it filters through her. So this gives her a central virtual location to contact everyone. That everybody's talking about the same subject at the same time, that it needs to be in on it. Some of it, a lot of it deals with the codes department. There's some that deal with the police department, fire department. It touches a lot of different areas, finance department. So this is a mechanism to filter requests and it manages the request, but it also reduces the time spent on doing all this. It keeps track and allows the city to publish and provides a detailed audit trail of all actions, which is also important because this all goes through the state government as well, and they demand to know at times were those requirements met. So this is a request to have a line item in the city budget for the city clerk for the next 2 years of $4,644.36 a year per year for 2 years. And the company would start, next request would start this in October. And this last quarter of the year would be at no cost under the contract. This would be reviewed by the solicitor.
It was review finance. I think that's essentially what probably it's also, so, I mean, I'll open the floor for questions here in a second. I mean, that was one of the most eye-opening things of kind of moving into this position this year was the amount of right to knows and the process that we have. I mean, it's a substantial amount of work that our city clerk does. And it could be much more efficient. It could be much more transparent. This does that for, I think, a very reasonable price point. And this is going to really enable her to be able to keep up with the other scopes of her job and take a lot of stress off of her as well. This is a really valuable tool for us, I think, and help us bring that process into the 21st century. So
It's not just the process itself. I mean, the law that we need to provide accurate, timely information. I will do that. So this helps to avoid mistakes or oversights. Everything in one place at one time.
There is a representative from Next Request there. If anybody has any questions, for any comments or questions, council. Okay. All right. Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Biker,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Gina, thanks for finding this. And
Thanks to
thanks for Kristen from Next Request for working with us. This is exciting. All right, we're gonna jump back up to item 5. I think we'll go over from here unless I'm missing somebody else out there. We'll move to item 5. Mrs. Frank.
Ordinance, ARPA transfer ordinance number 3, final reading.
Is there a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second. Motion in a second. Welcome back, Mayor Slaughter.
Yes, good evening again, Council President Yoder, Vice President Catherine, Council Administration. What you have before you is the final reading for the transfer ordinance related to the 10 2-unit townhomes on the west end of town by T. Ross Brothers. Was discussed 2 weeks ago on first reading, and you have a representative here this evening, Mr. Fisher. If there are any questions here on final reading.
Thank you, Mayor Slaughter. Are there any comments, questions, in second reading? I have, Mr. Butler. I do have one, and this relates to another item on the agenda. I think with the DCNR, the DCNR grant or the 4th Street Inspection Services. There was one of those we were potentially looking at using ARPA money to do a match for. When we were in second reading, I don't know if we are prepared to, if the administration wants to do that, and they have a proposition where we'll let them, if you want to make that transfer now and budget it in second reading. That's the only question that I would offer.
Specifically, I can touch on that for a second. I think we're referring to is the grant we're ongoing after for the Chesapeake Bay pollution reduction.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, the matching amount is $234,000. The water authority was gracious enough to actually say they're going to cover that for us.
Okay. So we don't have to worry there. Okay, no, well, that's great news, and thank you publicly to the water authority. That's very kind and great, and we're very grateful for that, but thank you for that, Sean. That was my only question, so I don't know if anybody else has any.
The question that I have is something that was touched on the last meeting. We've been talking about T. Ross Brothers. I understand there's a partnership with T. Ross Brothers. However, this is actually being done by Woodland Heights Development. Is that correct? That
Yes, Woodland Heights Development Group LLC. It's partners from T. Ross Brothers.
is that something that we should be changing in the description?
We could change that, yeah. Nora, do we need to? Yeah, Woodlands Heights LLC.
Want to make that?
Yeah, we can make that we change that from T. Ross Brothers Development to Woodland Heights Development LLC.
Woodland Heights Group. Woodland Heights Group Development LLC.
So the change is to change that to Woodland Heights Group LLC. So make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the proposed amendment? Okay. Here you see none. Mrs. Frank on the amendment. Motion to amend, excuse me.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion to amend passes 6-0. Back to the main motion. Thank you, Mr. White, for catching that. Any other comments or questions related to the main motion? Okay. Here you see none. Mrs. Frank on the main motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, main motion passes 6-0. We'll move to item 6, Mrs. Frank.
An ordinance, transfer ordinance number 4 and second reading.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'll welcome our city treasurer, Mr. Kevin Mackey. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, members of the council. This is the second reading for the final reading for the fund transfer, authorizing about 12,000 moved from the equipment budget going over to 10,000 to the part-time position and 2,000 over to the automation division area. And are there any other questions about this?
Any comments or questions? Second reading from members of council on the ordinance, the transfer ordinance? Okay. Here you see none. Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, transfer ordinance motion passes 6-0. Kevin, thank you very much. We'll move to item 8, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution setting city council meeting minutes setting city council meetings for the year 2023.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. So what you have before you, we didn't review this in committee, not super much to it. This is a resolution to set our meeting dates for next year. Couple things to note. This lines up pretty much with our normal operating structure with city council meetings. Our reorg and first standing meeting can happen at the same time. In January, same structure flows through. We have some time off again in August for Little League as we normally do. And then we're mimicking the same budget process structure that we're doing this year that we amended. So potential change that I can think of is maybe the November date. Yeah, so Thursday, November 9th is a little bit wrong year. That would help. That would help. Yeah, so the only thing that we may want to talk about changing is moving Thursday, November 9th to Thursday, November 2nd to match this year, but it's not necessarily a big deal. So, but that's the resolution in front of us, so any questions or comments, any potential changes anybody wants to make? Pretty straightforward. So. All right, here you see no questions, comments, changes. Mrs. Franklin, motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item 9, Mrs. Franklin.
Resolution authorizing City of Williamsport IT personnel to purchase laptops for city clerk and city council.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. So what you have before you is a resolution to purchase some digital equipment for digitization efforts of city council and more importantly, our city clerk. So we've talked about this for a couple of years, council getting laptops, iPads or something. We have got a mechanism in place for digital packets now. We can certainly continue to refine it. But what we don't have is a consistent mechanism of access for council members to access those. And certainly now that we have times where we remote in, due to, excruciating circumstances, that kind of thing, it would also be good to make sure that council members have a reliable, up-to-date platform to execute that as well. More importantly, as a part of this also, we're looking at getting our city clerk a laptop. Her computer is way beyond ancient. I don't know what Windows version you're running on, Janice. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's at least a couple versions older. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so, yeah. And so, so I mean, outside of the cybersecurity risks that it poses, it doesn't run very fast, right? So getting her a laptop does a couple of different things. It gets her an updated computer. It gives her some flexibility to take it home with her a lot easier if she needs to work from home, remote in from home or what have you. She doesn't have to, put a bunch of stuff on the thumb drive, that kind of thing. We also have a little bit of money in here to get her a couple of new monitors, so she can, maybe see those a little bit better. We can find her a decent little docking station. I have one from Best Buy. I paid $100 for it. It was really right. So we're not breaking the bank here by any means. We're coming in under budget, way under budget with what we budgeted here. So nice solution. I would thank Chris Black. You put together a few different options for us. It just so happened that the most cost-effective one was, in my opinion, the best one. Also, getting an actual laptop versus an iPad. And so that all worked out very well. That's what we have in front of us. It was brought forward to finance. I was not able to make it. I had a last minute work commitment, but if I missed anything, by all means, please.
No, you pretty much, that pretty much made it. Initially, one of the issues was paper reduction, which is great. Now, there's laptops across the board here, almost. But in any case, yeah, well, the point I want to make is, these are our personal laptops. It is not really ideal, for us to use our own personal equipment, our own personal, information and combine it with city things as well. So the laptops we're talking about, belong to the city, so they'll stay with who's ever on council. That to me is a good thing. Really makes it clean, keeps everything the way it should be, orderly. So you have all the city stuff in one place.
Completely agree. Mr. Nelson, absolutely. Any other comments, questions from other members of council? Okay. Here you see none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. We will jump down to item 11, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution to commit funding for Dcmr-C2B2 grant for the Williamsport Chesapeake Bay pollution plan.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Sander. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, everybody, again. What we have before you is the city's going after a C2P2 grant for Dcmr in the amount of $234,000. It requires a 50% match of also $234,000. This was discussed Tuesday at Public Works. The Water Authority was gracious enough to actually cover that local match for us. We have 2 or 3 years to build fiscal items in the city, I'll say, to hold sediment back from getting into the river. That's exactly what we're doing here. With this grant, we will fully satisfy our Chesapeake Bay pollution reduction plan requirements. We're after this with Delta, Teresa from Delta, and I was on a call today with her, and John from Dcmr. Let me know if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sander. This was reviewed in Public Works, Bonnie.
Yes,
you wanna add anything from Public Works.
yes, it was. It was reviewed at Public Works. And this has been an ongoing, this is another mandate that has to be done. And the $234,000, I think was a little bit of a surprise from the standpoint of, we've been collecting debris and everything else that we possibly can for the Chesapeake Bay pollution reduction plan. But this is, that's, like I said, it's another mandate. And John has been doing a very good job as far as keeping on top of all of these things, and also making sure that there are people out there going for funding for all of this. So it is what it is. We've been working on the Chesapeake Bay pollution reduction plan. I don't even know how many years at this point, but it's been a long time. And the city is very conscious of what we are doing with it. Other than that, I think John said it all.
And this is just to clarify, we're doing a joint plan with the city and Williamsport. Williamsport covers roughly 2/3 of the county reduction, or roughly a third.
Thank you, John. That's helpful. Any comments or questions from members of council on this one? Any additional? Okay. Here you see Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. We'll move to item 12, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing construction and inspection services for the 4th Street Improvement Project to Washington Design Group.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'll turn it back over to you again, Mr. Sander.
Good evening again. So a few weeks ago, we awarded this project to Hubbaker for construction. Take a couple steps back in 2021, put out the project for design. We had 6 proposals back then, 2 of which had construction inspection. What we're looking to do here is hire Larson Design Group for $29,090, that's $29,090, to inspect a project during construction. The funding for this would come from the state grant for the local matching share, which is being covered by the county. So, the other firm that provided a proposal for construction inspection came said it'd be over $50,000. This was discussed Tuesday at Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Bonnie, this was discussed in Public Works.
Yes, we did discuss the Public Works, and I think John said it all. There's nothing more that I can add to it.
Thank you, Mrs. Katz. Are there any other comments or questions from members of council? Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Peruzzi,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. John, thank you very
Thank you.
much. We'll move to item 13, Mrs. Frank.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of a Nomad EF 200 half paper utilizing ARPA funds.
Is there a motion and a second? So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Livermore.
Good evening, members of council. Yeah, so I come to you tonight presenting to purchase a paver to start repairing, or try to start repairing some of our smaller roads and alleys. What this paver will provide for us is the ability to fix up some of our alleys a little bit better than what we have. Right now, we don't have the ability to do so. We have a drag box, which is not the best piece of equipment, but it still gets it done. We still have to keep going back year after year to fix this. The other thing this paver will do is give us the ability to pave some of our parks, walking paths. It's a lot of the paver you can get now is really too big. What I found, I did a lot of research finding this one. This will do a lot more stuff for us than what we need to do throughout the city. This paver has the ability to pave 3.5 feet wide out to 11 foot. So there's a wide variety for this. It will also lay down other material, blacktop too, which is 2A sub base and millings as well. Obviously, this is, pretty expensive, $225,000 for this piece of equipment. I looked into renting it. If we would rent it, it's roughly around $700 a day. I anticipate on running this piece of equipment 20 weeks out of the year, which is $3,500 a week, which is $50,000 to $70,000 a year, which we have this paid off within 2 years. It's going to be, profitable on our end. The other cost, the material, we can lay this material down $5.20 a square foot. Our competitors, our construction contractors right now are $8 a square yard. That's at an inch and a half thick. I do want to fund this through ARPA, Public Works, the future projects fund. This was reviewed by Austin and also reviewed by Claire Collins, our UHY advisor. And this went through Public Works on Tuesday. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Livermore. This was reviewed Public Works also. Mrs. Katz.
yes, this was reviewed by Public Works, and this piece of equipment is going to save us a lot of money and a lot of frustration. This could be used for so many things, as Scott said, the alleys, the parks, things that, the piece of equipment that we have now is just too big for any of this. The only question that we had of Public Works was that this was not budgeted in the ARPA funds. And that's one of the things that has to be addressed, that we're taking this, that Scott wants to take this out of ARPA funds for this piece of equipment. But it would behoove us to go after this equipment since there is money available for it. Like I said, to save us time, money, and frustration. I have no other comments.
Thank you, Mrs. Katz. Yeah, I asked about the Chesapeake Bay thing, but I didn't ask about this. You should have said something like, you're missing. Yeah, it would have been good to move some money around, but yeah, no, we already closed it a few line items ago, so I guess I'm missing on my part. So you're proposing to take it out of the future projects reserve line item. I think is it a good practice? Probably not, but I mean, so would you purchase this like tomorrow?
So if it passes tonight, luckily, there's one sitting in a warehouse ready for me.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
If it doesn't, obviously, luckily, if this would fall through, if I'd still get the yeses and that wasn't there for 6 to 9 months out. But luckily I have it, like tomorrow morning, I'm making a phone call.
Okay. So, I mean, so you know, on the resolution, you know, you're pulling it from a particular line item, that line item is budgeted. I mean, I'm assuming that didn't raise a red flag with UHY specifically.
No, I mean, the future projects, I thought that was, was that allocated for certain things, or was just the extra money that wasn't out of public works?
Yeah, I mean, not to get too far into a rabbit hole, I think the intent of that was like saying, hey, we want to save this money for future public works related projects, initiatives. And when we identify what they are, we'll move that to a particular project line item. I think that was the intent of it. So, for me personally, I'll say, am I generally comfortable spending money out of this that is not put out in a line item? No, I'm not, but I think given the circumstances, you're calling it out with a particular line item. I mean, I think we're okay there. I think just the next time we go through and we do some more changes, update that, we just need to make sure that we catch that, right? So, whether it's Mr. Lewis, he may tell me I'm completely wrong though.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
What you could do is make a motion to reconsider transfer ordinance amended earlier. And then
Do you need to suspend the rules or anything like that?
it's in the rules,
Okay, I didn't, yeah, okay.
but you can request reconsideration. As long as somebody who's in the majority, they said.
I mean, all of us were.
No, worse, but that's what the ordinance provides.
Well,
You can do it like again, after you do the other items.
we can certainly do that. That sounds like a good idea. So there you go, we have a solution. So, I'll take your sheet on that one, I should call that, so. It's only, it is what it's gonna work. Mr. Pelosi, you have a question outside of the comment, no, not the speaker.
Yeah, regarding this purchase, I share your sentiments, regarding removing the fund without specifically having a line item for it. However, like Scott and the consultants were able to identify specifically which line items would come out of. The one thing I also would like to mention and discuss in Public Works is for this piece of equipment, also to be an asset to the city in that when we are not using it, we will have the ability to contract out this equipment and its services to other local municipalities and boroughs. Being able to charge for the services, just to further expedite, you know, how timely it will pay for itself and making us more money.
Yeah, that, obviously, that is an option. However, that will go with one of my guys. I won't give that up freely because I know how people treat equipment, so we will, I mean, it is an option.
Yeah.
You know, we'll come in, need to do an emergency job. They don't have a paper, we got one. I will get it, I'll send it with that, with the guy.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, no, duly noted, you know, we should certainly help our neighbors for sure, but,
We do, I communicate with Wilson all the time about ideas and.
yeah, good.
Origins.
Good. Yeah, very good. But let's be careful because you don't want it to fall into disrepair. And it's, I mean, that's the, you're thinking, I can tell you're thinking, so, you know, that's, and I don't think it's. You gotta think about that for sure, so. All right. Any other comments or questions? Okay, here you see now, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bidos,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Move to item 14, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution for Global Data Consultants LLC to provide information technology services.
Is there a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second. Motion in a second. Mr. Black.
Good evening, Mr. President, Yoder, other council members. We have here is a resolution to contract out for some technical services specifically for our phone system. It was bought 6 years ago at this point. It is no longer supported by the manufacturer. They say go back to your dealer. The dealer says we don't support that product any longer. So these people have the knowledge to help us out with that, or basically a time and materials basis, an hourly basis.
Thank you, Mr. Platt. Sure. This was reviewed in finance.
Yes, we did review this money, and, yeah, in the, scope of services that, talks about, all the areas that will be able to access, and back up on, routing, switching services, email application, desktop, technical services, all those things. But most of all, what we talked about was, the cost a little bit, did you cover that again, 125 an hour, how that?
It is basically where if we could sign a contract with them for a bulk purchase of 50 or 100 hours, which we'd have to pay for completely up front. I believe we don't need to go that route. Even if we bought 100 hours, we would be saving $5 an hour. So, and I'm not going to need them for 100 hours.
So, basically, we need backup services. But we needed not as much as the prepaid invoicing that they were offering. Usage.
I mean, I may use them for 10 hours. Oh,
Mr. Allison, any comments or questions from other members of council? Kind of a technical question, not with the phones, but more of this just odd arrangement that we're in between ourselves and River Valley Transit. So who owns the phones?
we do.
The city of
City of
Williamsport does,
Williamsport
because we
owns
still
the
own
phone
the
system.
properties. Okay, gotcha.
No, this was a phone system that was put in over at City Hall,
Us for City Hall. I gotcha,
where the bulk of those phones have been moved to our individual offices here,
gotcha.
running on our switches, City of Williamsport switches. To communicate back to that system.
Yeah, never mind, my question's at that point, so. you answered it. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Here you see none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Should we re-entertain something now or wait till we're done with all voting items? Okay. Item 16, except for final, we've got the controller's report from July 2022, Transit Oversight Committee from June 27th and August 30th, 2022, and the Finance Committee meeting minutes from August 30th, 2022. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second?
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions related to the minutes with filing? Right, here you see none, Mrs. Frank, on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. So no one remind me of the technicalities related to this.
There would be a motion to reconsider the approval of the ordinance transfer ordinance number 3.
Okay. Is there a motion to reconsider item 5, transfer ordinance number 3?
Move it.
Second. Motion and a second, and this we will be revisiting second reading, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we have reopened it to revisit that. So we just talked about taking money from Public Works Future Project Reserve, creating a new line item. The value was what? 225, 225, 400. So is there a motion to make that transfer?
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second. So we're moving $225,400 from Public Works Future Projects Reserve to a new line item for paving equipment. Motion and second. Any comments, questions? Okay, hearing see none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder? Yes, vote revisiting, passes 6-0, and appreciate you all working with me through that. Item 17, announcements. Our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be on Thursday, October 27th, right here, 7 p.m., third floor. Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, October 18th at 6:30 p.m. We have the Historic Architectural Review Board. Wednesday, October 19th, 10 a.m. Blighted Property. Thursday, October 20th, 10:30 a.m. is our zoning hearing board. Tuesday, October 25th, 1 p.m. is our Finance Committee meeting. 2:30 p.m. Public Works. Wednesday, October 26th, 9 a.m. ERC. 11:30 a.m. Public Safety. 11:30 a.m. at the same time also is Redevelopment Authority. And Thursday, October 27th, 7 p.m. is our City Council meeting. Are there any comments from members of council on anything we haven't discussed or anything in general today? Are there any comments or question, or are there any comments from the administration this evening? Are there any comments from the public tonight? Okay, if you would come on up, say your address for the record, and you would have 3 minutes. Welcome, good evening, sir.
My name is Mike Stockwell, 619%. I have an ongoing problem with the city office. I can't really get into all the details because it's a legal issue. But I had to file a private complaint in the county against the Department of the City of Williamsport. Since then, things have rolled on. And now in discussions with one of the top officers at the county level, he describes it as a dereliction of duty. I am not a lawyer, but my own opinion, I think I'm still allowed in this country, is it's obstruction of justice, which is a criminal offense. I called Officer Bolt twice, no return. I called the mayor a couple of times. They said he was out of town, no return. I'm not exactly sure what I have to do next. I would like somebody from this department to contact me and go from there. So I don't have to file, I don't know whether that's with the Attorney General's office or what. But it's beyond disgusting, all right? So we understand each other. And, you know, if it was just me talking, okay, who am I? Nobody. But when the leading officials in the county courthouse tells me it's a dereliction of duty, I would think these guys will all be calling me right now. Not run away, but talk to me right now, right here, to get some detail on this. We'll see if they do. Don't hold your breath. Is my experience. Another question too. This paving machine, I came down and talked about it. I think Schoolhouse Alley between Campbell and Maynard, and Second and Third, there's an alley. Okay, and I was just curious if the Department of Streets or whoever, when they go to use this, if they pave it. I was in here before. the brush and debris and the trees have grown 15 feet beyond the line of the original alley. I've been familiar with the neighborhood. I've owned properties down there for 30 years. The alley, I think the last time they paved it, they actually paved it around this brush. Now, if anybody in here from codes, actually, I don't know anybody from codes anymore, but if they're familiar with the law, you're not allowed to have any brush, et cetera, grow across a public thoroughfare, okay? Which it has. If you don't believe me, go look at it. I don't know if anybody cares enough to go look at it. Maybe Mr. Mackey, maybe Mr. Allison, Biter. It's a pretty common alley between Second and Third, Campbell and Maynard. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And it shows, you know, that the city is being misrun in some ways. I'm not talking about Mr. Slaughter, it's been going on before him. You do not have an alley that goes straight from me to there, going out 15 feet because they don't go after a landowner to clean up his brush. And it's an alley in one of the most thoroughfares of the town. Student housing, anything else. Some kid walking behind there comes out around, somebody's driving, he's gonna get killed. Why? Tell me why, Mr. Yoder.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, I did it once before. You haven't done anything about it. It was almost a year ago.
3 minutes are up.
Oh, yeah, of course, my 3 minutes are up.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Any other comments from the public? All right, any comments from the news media? I don't see anybody here. Take a motion for adjournment. So moved. Second. Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Everyone have a good evening. Meeting adjourned.